going to jump into StyroPyro being a mad scientist. Yeah, this is going to be hydrochloric acid lemonade. Because of course he did that. Followed by, is it the volts or the amps that kill? How does this man survive? I've been told explicitly that his fans have the general reaction of, holy shit, you're still alive, for every video he does. And I think that's an accurate way to look at it, because how is he alive? Literal laser weapons lighting fires, setting a car on fire, burning a forest of leaves. If I hadn't seen actual snowfall in a few of them, when it still started a fire, I believe the laser turret was him just trying to elaborately create his own murder pit that he could try to escape from. And he probably would, actually. It probably will happen someday. So we're going to get into this again. Also known as, hi everyone, welcome to being an accessory to some type of crime. Do I know what kind yet? No. But is it probably? There's a 99% chance that the answer is yes. Yep. So if you like this, share the video. Make sure other people know that you must suffer with us.
I wanted to drink hydrochloric acid. Well, at least after seeing this recipe for hydrochloric acid lemonade. Now at first glance,
prepare before use as directed under lemonades with the above ingredients. Hydrochloric acid lemonade is a clear, colorless liquid. Sweet, cool acid taste. Isn't hydrochloric acid the stuff that our stomach juices are made of? Michael Hamilton. Simple. He killed death and became him. He is become death, the destroyer of worlds. Yeah, that fits. Oh, God. And Lord of Hollows, you want me to check out another YouTuber called Sandpaper Tread... Oh, he makes sandpaper treadmills. Isn't that just a belt sander but with extra steps involved? Oh, God.
This does seem pretty insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it is from a Japanese pharmacopoeia, so it must be safe to drink, right? One way to find out.
Japanese Wikipedia. Yeah, that's hydrochloric acid in his hand. 37% reagent. Oh, no.
Now I gotta say it. Don't try this at home because you'd probably die. Anyway, I have some hydrochloric acid here, and it turns out it is better at dissolving metals than most things I consume. Now the real question is, how can I drink this stuff without dissolving my teeth and stomach? Let's take a look at that. Question is, how can I drink this stuff without dissolving my teeth and stomach?
You can see bits of it just falling from the surface. You can actually see it happen.
Now the real question is, how can I drink this stuff without dissolving my teeth and stomach? Let's take a look at that recipe there. Notice how it doesn't actually tell us how much acid to use.
Dilute hydrochloric acid, 5 milliliters. Simple syrup, 80 milliliters. I'm assuming the only way this works is that the syrup has to be something that's a base to counteract the acid, so it does equal out to maybe a sufficiently low pH. Considering that orange juice, for example, actually has a really high acidic amount, it might be possible if you get a strong enough base. But also, I'm not a chemist. He is. So this is probably safe for him, unlike some of the other things where it's more learned through action as opposed to actually knowing what he's talking about in advance.
Yeah, it gives a volume, but there's no info on concentration other than dilute. What's dilute even supposed to mean here? How about 37%? That seems pretty dilute, right? I mean, it's much less than 100%. Well, it turns out...
You could actually see something is dissolving in there. It might be the air, it might be the sides, it might just be particles in the air burning upon contact. I don't know.
37% is about as concentrated as you can possibly get at room temperature and pressure. For aqueous solutions, at least. That means I'll have to dilute it. But by how much exactly? This calls for a little math. Lemon juice is quite...
Nails! He's starting with it dissolves nails. Okay. That's apparently a thing.
But by how much exactly? This calls for a little math. Lemon juice
It calls for running away.
It has a pH of about 2. Yeah, that is pretty sour.
You know, I usually think he's just doing a bit with the mad scientist staring straight in. But he just bit straight into a lemon. Unless he sugared that, and even that I don't think would matter, because that is the most sociopathic thing I have seen anyone ever do. Okay, wow. That's a thing.
If we set lemon juice as our benchmark, that means that the hydrochloric acid needs to be diluted to about 10 millimolar, which is about a milliliter of the concentrated acid per liter of water. It's always reassuring when the acid is fuming like this, because I wouldn't want any weaker for my...
Wait.
It's always reassuring when the...
So that's the total amount of the acid he put. Was it already steaming before that? No. 0.82 milliliter concentrated acid in a liter of hydrochloric. Oh, H2O. Okay, so that was the acid he was adding.
That means that the hydrochloric acid needs to be diluted to about 10 millimolar, which is about a milliliter of the concentrated acid per liter of water. It's always reassuring when the acid is fuming like this, because I wouldn't want...
Oh God, you can see the steam. Or I guess the smoke. The syringe is burning. And it's not just this, like, you can actually see it on the screen a bit. Okay.
Any weaker for my lemonade. As for the sweetener, I used corn syrup to honor our corn overlords.
Yeah.
So, is hydrochloric acid lemonade any good? Time to find out. It's alright. I mean, honestly, it's not as sour as I was expecting. I think the lemons I ate earlier were more sour than this. Huh. Well, I guess the more I drink it, it is a bit more tart. But, I mean, it is hydrochloric acid after all. You know, it's funny. It's not that sour, but I can feel it on my teeth. It's like, that's weird. It feels more acidic than it tastes, if that makes sense.
This is from 2 years ago. He degraded into just burning other things rather than himself. He's learning. I mean, I know our stomachs have some pretty harsh acids in them. I don't actually know if hydrochloric is part of what stomach acid is made of or not. I'm not a chemist, and honestly, I'm not a biologist either, so I don't know. And I'm hoping that giant glob of corn syrup is what neutralized, in the water, is what neutralized a significant tiny portion of that hydrochloric acid. But he's still drinking it. And Blue Hush just mentioned he can't believe, or they can't believe, this guy's alive. I think that is everyone's opinion. And I stand by it, because what the hell, man?
And really, it's also kind of bland. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's just
water,
glucose, and of course hydrochloric acid. Where a normal lemonade, you have lemons, right? So it actually has like some citrus flavors to it. And this is about it's about as simple as it gets.
Sugar, water, acid. Usually when you say it that way, that's not how you mean it. This is the somehow more disturbing way.
I mean, all things considered, a pH of 2 isn't that crazy. I mean, when you barf, you expose your mouth to even lower pH. In fact, gastric juice has a pH of like 1. So that's 10 times more acidic than this stuff.
Damn.
And it's, yeah, so it's like, pH of 2 it's not that insane. Really, some sodas even come pretty close to that.
Seriously?
I know they're at least under 3. So it's not that insane, you know, all things considered. But still, the idea of hydrochloric acid lemonade, like, who thinks of that stuff? Who thought, hey, I should dilute some hydrochloric acid in water, throw in some sugar, and then drink it? Like,
he got this as a recipe online. He's not the person who thought this up. So for at least a bit of time, someone else out-crazied him. There is someone out there who is more StyroPyro than StyroPyro. I don't know how to feel about this. Okay, that's moderately terrifying. Also, Hane asleep right now? Thanks for dropping in, Invictus. Hope you sleep well. And don't think about this guy having someone who's apparently even more crazy than they are.
I mean, you already saw what hydrochloric acid does to metals. So
Yeah, I saw the nails dissolve.
I don't know. That's it's a weird recipe. It is a very weird recipe. Now this is really weird. This is my teeth feel funny. Well, if there's anything I learned from this, it's that when life gives you hydrochloric acid, you make lemonade.
Either way, we're going to do the next part, though, and this is it volts or amps that kill? Because this is 1 year ago as opposed to 2 years ago, so this is him toning it down and just trying to burn someone with electricity. Oh, boy. We're doing this one. Oh, God.
Is dangerous. But what is it that makes some sources lethal and others not? One way to find out.
Oh, God, I remember him pulling that...
But seriously.
He has a Tesla coil, and he just leaves a screwdriver in it to make the zappy come from it. And that thing is freaking huge! And I know he's probably grounded right now, so the volts go right through him. As long as it has a place to go out, it's safe. Oh, and he has a shock warning in Russian behind him. Of course he does. Oh, boy.
Seriously, this is an important question, and it's one that gets more wrong answers than right ones. Now, there are a few reasons why I'm making this video. For one, I want to clear up some common misconceptions about electricity, and I want to do it with some not-so-safe demos. But the main reason is somebody called me wrong on the internet. Is it the volts or amps that kill? A while ago, I made a short video on the topic, and in summary, I said that you can't pin all electrical hazards on a short answer like volts or amps. And boy, this made a lot of people mad.
I thought the answer was, you can get fucked over by both. One is easier, but both will work. And if they're not grounded, it doesn't really matter. Also, Michael Hamilton. Some good short videos are animated legends of Aventurus. Basically, any Chuckles the Space... Wait, Chuckles the Space Clown? I have no idea what that is. I have to look it up.
All these people flaunting their professional qualifications, telling me that I'm wrong. Well, I say...
I mean, if you see anyone online citing qualifications, and it's not backed up by, well, probably a research article and a link directly to a place where they're cited, even that I wouldn't trust it because it's the internet. People lie.
No, you. If I'm wrong about something, I do want to be corrected. But one of my biggest pet peeves is when somebody flaunts their fancy qualifications while also giving out incorrect information. Now I'll be honest.
Like a doctor talking about demons as a reason for periods. Yeah, they're in Florida, and everything I said probably makes sense because of that.
I'm not an electrician or an engineer, but I do have a bunch of terrifying electrical devices, as well as the fancy equipment.
What the fuck?
Engineer.
Is that wall burning?
Terrifying electrical devices, as well as the fancy equipment.
Okay. What the fuck, man?
I do have a bunch of terrifying electrical devices, as well as the fancy equipment needed to put some numbers behind my claims. Most importantly is that I'm willing to do some crazy stuff to prove a point. And in fact, I'm willing to put myself into circuits that should be lethal by their logic. So yeah, let's get started.
Just to clarify, we know he survived this. Possibly. Maybe. Because his later videos came out after this. Actually, I'm just going to double check. Did he have many videos after this? Yeah, one came out 3 months ago. Testosterone, car batteries, a brightest laser pointer in the world. Oh, here's the amp one, yeah, and cancer cheese. Oh, we're doing the safe for work video. I thought this was the dangerous one. Silly me. Also, Siren mentioned, unless he invented a cloning tank. I mean, at this point, if he hasn't tried, I'd be surprised. There's probably an entire tank of hymns floating somewhere. It's like, look at all the spares I have. I don't need them. I just like having them. It's like a me lamp. Like a lava lamp, but it's just me.
Oh yeah, before I go on, I should warn you that all the crazy stuff you're about to see was done completely for educational purposes. And in fact, if you were to try any of this stuff at home, you'd probably die. So Taking
Lovely!
electricity is one of mankind's biggest achievements.
Guitar?
Using
No, a key.
electricity, we can light our homes, cook our food, and use these nightmare bricks to watch
Was that a laser microwave? His home, which has a random thing hanging from the middle. That's fine. That's not creepy at all.
Using electricity, we can light our homes, cook
Oh God, it is actually a microwave laser.
our food, and use these nightmare bricks to watch horrors happen in real time. Electricity isn't all sunshine and roses, though. It can shock you, it can burn you, it can even kill you.
And you see the exact moment where he got shocked, but hopefully he's grounded, so it's fine.
But what is it exactly about electricity that makes it dangerous? Well,
The
this is a
burning,
complicated
shocky
question,
part?
and the answer depends highly on the source of that electricity. First, let's consider our biggest design vulnerability when it comes to electricity, and that's the nervous system.
Oh
Nerve
yeah,
cells work
it
on
was shorted
electrical
out.
signals that are a small fraction of a single volt, so it really doesn't take much to override these with outside means.
So we are electric.
I mean, anybody who's licked a 9-volt battery knows how easily a mere 9 volts overpowers all the signals going to your tongue. Oh.
People do that? Okay, never mind. I know what most people are like. That actually makes perfect sense. Someone would lick both ends of a battery. And Lord of Slops clarified, it's not just a microwave laser, it's a microwave laser cannon. I'm not sure I was making a joke now about being an accessory having seen his videos. I don't know if that's even counting as humor. It might just be a real thing at this point. And we're all in it together. When one of us gets arrested for having seen his videos and tried to do it, I think at this point, it's like, yeah, we deserve it at that point. And I'm assuming it's going to happen. Oh, God.
Now, if there's any electrical system in your body that you don't want to
a
mess
heart.
with, it's in the heart. The heart
Oh,
has its
shit,
own
that
set of
defibrillator.
pacemaker cells that work separately from the brain. And like other nerve cells in the body, they deal with voltages of less than 1/10 of a single volt. It doesn't take much of a shock to mortally interfere with the signals that set the heart rhythm, and this is why most electrical fatalities are cardiac related. Even if the
Stops the
heart
heart.
does manage to get spared by a shock, electricity can still cause burns, nerve damage, flash blindness, and plenty of other not so fun experiences.
Flash blindness? I don't even know what that
Heart-beating
is.
bodies are simply no match for angry electrons. Now that we've looked at our design vulnerabilities,
Did he just taser
let's start
himself?
playing with some fun electrical sources to see if it's the volts or amps that play a bigger role.
You can actually see the moment where the... Yeah, you see the contact point. And Michael Daughtry. Yeah, Matthew Daughtry said, yeah, he looks like a young Rick Sanchez. Yeah, he actually does. Give him one bottle and maybe a little drool from it, and he basically is Rick.
Going off of
But
my
he doesn't have a
previous
Morty.
comments, it seems that most people with professional experience said it's just the current that kills. It turns out there are some problems with that. Here I've hooked up a car battery up to these steel rods. Now this battery can dump up to 1,000 amps, yet touching these bare rods doesn't do anything to me. Oh, you think the battery's dead? Nope. The thing is, that battery can dump 1,000 amps, but not through me. It's only a 12-volt source after all, and my skin's resistance is high enough to block all but a minuscule amount of current from going through my body.
The metal is melting. So it's a matter of volts and amps. Got it. Also, I'm assuming at this point his insurance provider is just assuming the answer is yes. And the payment is, how have we not actually had to pay him yet? His next of kin is probably just going like, oh yeah. Although realistically, there's no way this guy has life insurance or health insurance. Oh God, his health insurance is probably the equivalent of just pay us the maximum immediately. We know you're going to need it.
This is Ohm's law in action. You can't always use this logic when judging the hazard of an electrical source, but it does work for low voltages like this. Here I have a different flavor of high current power supply. It's a step-down transformer I wound years ago, and it's
Is that water? No, it's too viscous. It's probably not water. What is that?
held up surprisingly well in this ice cream bucket. Being a transformer, it's AC, unlike the battery, but the voltage is still way too low to shock me. Check out the current when I drop a quarter across it. That's over 1,000 amps. Of course, just because these low voltage, high current sources can't shock, it doesn't mean they're completely safe. They can still burn you by simply heating things up. It's also possible to
Okay. What the? You could. I did.
when I drop a quarter across it. That's over 1,000 amps. Of course.
You could actually see as the heat is spreading through it, the current is taking it down, and then it starts glowing where it progresses, and then it just.
Of course, just because these low voltage, high current sources can't shock, it doesn't mean they're completely safe. They can still burn you by simply heating things up. It's also possible to get shocked indirectly, like by rapidly disconnecting them from an inductive load like this electromagnet, because you get a big voltage spike by doing
What
this.
is that?
So
The fuck was
because you get a
that?
big voltage spike by
Oh, it's magnetic. That's why it's all clustered down there. And Michael Hamilton, you and us both, Airier. I'm assuming you mean the oh god, what the fucking? Because yeah, that would make sense right now.
doing this. So this all makes it seem like it's the volts that matter here, right? Let's take a look at this electrical shock hazard chart.
Philibration.
There's actually nothing about
Perceptible, but no muscle reaction. Imperceptible. Muscle concentration and reversible effects. Possible irreversible effects. 50% probability of fibrillation, which would be fucking with the heart. So, I don't know the difference between amps and ohms. I'm assuming it's amps down here because A. So, oh, I get it. So the lower the voltage, the less likely it'll hurt you, up until a point where it really hurts you really easily. And that would be right around here, so 50. So it's basically, if either one is too high, then it fucks with it. And that was oil with iron, a ferro liquid. Oh, okay, that's what that was. I figured there was iron in it, but I wasn't sure what was going on. Huh. I wonder if that's how they separate for oils and gases. No idea.
voltage on here at all, only current. What gives? This assumes that source can put that current through you, which means it has to have a sufficiently high voltage to do so, as well as a low enough impedance. But what kind of voltages are we talking about here?
I have no idea.
According to the chart, less than 100 milliamps of current can be lethal. My body's resistance is about 250,000 ohms. So according to Ohm's law, I'd need a voltage of about 25,000 volts to kill me. Seems simple enough, right? Let's go ahead and put that idea to practice.
To give an idea, though, if you have an obscenely high power computer, you're going to hit about maybe 1,000 volts. The power supply itself would probably take 1,000. But also, those things can shock you a lot harder because you don't touch power supplies. You don't fuck with that. You can make a lot of stuff yourself. Don't make your own power supply. But I also know it has a pretty high amperage, I think. Not sure, though.
Let me use this apple as a model of the human body.
10?
It has an even higher resistance than me,
Oh.
about 10 million ohms.
Oh, that's
In
the
order
M
to
for
put a
million.
lethal current of 100 milliamps through it, Ohm's law says I need 1,000,000 volts. Why don't we test that out? You can watch
I don't
the
think I'm gonna like
voltage
what
here and
happens.
the current here. A couple notes about the setup. I'm using a voltage divider so I don't kill my meter, which means the actual voltage is 10 times higher than what the meter shows.
This is a 10th? Oh, I'm not going to like what we're about to see this thing explode, aren't we? And Mega Man Prime, or Mega Man Land Prime. Hey, can't stay long, but curious if you're interested in watching the 40th anniversary video for Transformers made by Studio Trigger. I would love to see that one, but considering it's Studio Trigger directly, I would get claimed and probably copyright struck so fast. I would probably lose the ability to stream for a few weeks, and I do not want to risk that. I might check it out on my own, but I'm not reacting to that. Although I've heard it's awesome.
As for the current, I'm measuring the voltage drop across a 1 ohm resistor, which means the voltage measured is the current going through it in amps.
Oh.
Alright, let's slowly crank up the voltage there.
Oh, well.
Oh, it's conducting.
Oh, it's burning.
Ha, look at that. The apple's dead. Ohm's law said I'd need 1,000,000 volts. Yet it was passing 100 milliamps at barely over 1,000 volts. What gives?
You could actually see where the apple is burned away. Like between the flashes. Like over here, you could just see the cutout. It's literally burned away the apple from the electricity source, but then it's still jumping the gap. Ah.
What gives? It turns out you can throw Ohm's law out the window in situations like this, because the apple experienced something called dielectric breakdown. When the voltage across an insulator reaches a high enough point, the molecules in it get shredded by the electric field. This means the insulator suddenly becomes a conductor and will allow a huge amount of current to pass through it. Ohm's law does not tell you when this happens. For human skin, this point is roughly about 500 volts or so, but this varies considerably.
Why?
Of course, if you get poked by a live wire, it won't take nearly as much voltage to be a problem. Of interesting note is that the electric chair only has a voltage of about 2,000 volts. Based on Ohm's law and a skin resistance of 100,000 ohms, this shouldn't be lethal, but this logic doesn't work here because the skin can't hold off that kind of voltage.
Is he burning a cucumber or a pickle with electricity? Why?
It's funny, because Ohm's law is hardly a law in the physical sense because it fails all the time. Many simple devices violate ohmic behavior. LEDs, many light bulbs, even the full bridge rectifier do not obey.
Rectifier? Considering this, actually, I know this guy. He's the one who shocks himself all the time because he is an electrician. I've seen his stuff. I don't remember his name though.
Obey Ohm's law. If you want to play it safe, stick with voltages under 50 volts, because that's the limit where OSHA says the voltage is not high enough to electrocute.
Okay, under 50 volts.
There's another issue relying on resistance when you're dealing with AC. If you've ever been shocked by a live wire without touching ground at the same time,
it's
you've
on.
experienced this. What's completing the circuit here? A capacitor, of course. Notice how the resistance of this capacitor is so high that it can't be measured by my meter.
Wait, what did he say there? Yes, I cheated. Yes, I cheated to make my meter show this, but its parallel resistance is effectively 0.
My meter. Yet it still can pass a bunch of current. That's because AC can pass through a capacitor. You have a capacitance too.
I did not actually know that.
Which is why you can feel a shock from touching a single live wire. At this point in the video, I know there will still be people out there that argue it's just the current that kills. Because that's what's shown in those graphs, right? Or maybe they'll concede to the idea that voltage does play a role, but still current in the end doing the damage. Well, this is the point where I start putting myself into circuits that should be lethal under that premise. Even this very chart acknowledges it's more than just the current that kills. There's a whole axis in time, and the chart is only valid for a small range of frequencies as well. So, let's switch it up a bit using something else we experience. Static electricity.
Styrofoam peanuts clinging to a cat's fur due to static electricity. Oh, wow. That cat is about to murder someone. And the description is, my cat loves styrofoam peanuts. Really? That looks like love, all right.
Anytime you receive a static shock, the voltage you're being exposed to is quite high, much higher than what you get out of an outlet. In fact, going off the distance the arc can jump in open air, this voltage is several thousand volts. Most people will tell you the reason it doesn't kill you is because it's low current, but let's put that to the test. Right here I have a Van de Graaff generator. It's capable of generating very high DC voltages, similar to what you get from a static shock, just on steroids. This is a mechanical device that uses a rubber belt to transfer charge to the spherical top load. The voltages generated here are enormous.
Oh, that's what that looks like in the dark?
1,000 volts. Although the voltages are huge, the charge that accumulates on the sphere is still pretty tiny, only a couple millionths of a coulomb. Even so, this minuscule amount of charge is able to produce a force that overcomes the gravitational pull of the entire planet.
Damn.
The charges are small, but what about...
Oh, it's called a Van der Graaf generator? Well, I've been calling that the wrong one. I've been saying Tesla coil. And a Tesla coil is the arcing beams going up, not... This is the one with the ball. I always get those confused for some reason. And Siri mentioned he made both AC and DC, but Edison wanted DC because it was easier to charge people. Yeah, and he fucked around with Tesla, who wanted AC because Tesla actually was an inventor, where Edison wanted to make money and would also hire people to invent for him and steal their inventions. Edison was a dick.
About the currents? I mean, they must be small if I can touch them without dying, right? Ow! Let's go ahead and test that out. Once again, I'll be measuring current via a 1 ohm resistor, but this time with an extra fancy resistor that I built based on a video by Vitaly. It minimizes inductance to get an accurate reading. I should note that I've referenced Vitaly's videos more than anyone else on my channel. You should definitely check him out for some cool high voltage experiments.
Oh wow,
Alright, let's measure the current of that pole.
Oh god, there's someone who's so insane they inspire StyroPyro. I don't know if that's a compliment or the most terrifying thing I can imagine. I think the answer is going to be yes on that one.
Look at that. That was 40 amps. Considering the voltage here was on the order of 100,000 volts, the electrical power there was over 1,000,000 watts. The idea that static shocks are low current is a myth. When you get shocked by static, you're eating amps of current. Ow!
He just keeps doing it! Why?
So, why don't you go to heaven when you get a static shock? Because you've been naughty. But seriously, if you look at the DC shock hazard chart, you'll see that currents of a fraction of an amp can be lethal. What gives? Well, the chart clearly suggests there is a strong time dependence here. The shorter the duration of the shock, the more current your body can handle, which makes sense, really. Current alone doesn't tell you how much charge is transferred or for how long it happens. Current is just a rate of charge transfer after all. It's just like how your speed on a highway doesn't tell you how far you've gone or for how long you've traveled.
Yeah, it's like whenever someone says, okay, well, I'm going 80 miles an hour. Okay, have you gone 80 miles? No, because curves. Yeah, it's a annoying thing. I know a lot of people who tell me how far they're going by speed they travel. Yeah, we're going down the road at 80, so we'll be there soon. All right, how far are you going? I have no idea. Maybe that's just me. People just give weird directions. Also, in my area, they give directions based on places that aren't explicitly there anymore. Not the ones that are still there, but explicitly the ones that aren't. So maybe I'm not exactly using a good reference.
When it comes to a static shock, those huge currents are happening for an extremely short duration, on the order of a microsecond. This simply isn't enough time to cause significant damage to a person. So no, it's not just the current that kills, and these 40 amp static shocks are proof of that. Ow! I know that even this isn't going to be enough for some people. A microsecond pulse? That's cheating. Well, if I'm going to go through the trouble of making this video, I might as well murder the idea that it's just the current that kills.
What?
So I'm going to do something clinically insane to prove my point.
I'm sorry. We're only getting to the clinically insane part now? Oh, lovely.
So I've built this Tesla coil here. Now this is not an ordinary Tesla coil. It's switched with a monster Soviet vacuum tube, and with a power draw of 15 kilowatts, it's one of the most powerful vacuum tube driven coils in existence. This unusual combination of raw power and vacuum tube technology gives it some unique properties. Nowadays, most Tesla coils are switched with solid-state
So it actually was a
circuits.
Tesla coil.
These are more efficient, and their typically pulsed operation allows them to make longer arcs for a given power draw.
You can actually see as the electricity is vibrating in its own shock pattern, and the camera catches it in multiple states because it goes so fast.
Than a vacuum tube coil. My giant tube-driven coil doesn't stand out in raw arc length, as the longest arc it'll make is only about 2 meters or so. Where it does shine is in its ability to make a white-hot arc to a grounded object. It's straight up.
You could actually see where the air is being lit on fire. He actually immolated the air itself. So either, or I could be wrong, maybe it's the gas particles incinerating themselves. Like, not gas particles, like dust and all the other things, but although it's probably air. And considering most of air is 75% nitrogen. God damn!
It looks and sounds like a substation fault when it's running. It also melts the steel screwdrivers I use as breakout electrodes. It truly is a terrifying sight to behold.
He melted a steel screwdriver just as an effect that happened? What the fuck, man?
I know what you're thinking.
You're
It must be
insane?
hard to resist touching something that looks as crazy as that,
What?
right? Well, I have given in to the temptation. And no, I'm not very sane for doing this. However, I do use a steel file to distance myself from that.
Oh, yay, he's giving the safety and poking it with a metal stick. Because the heat itself would probably burn him at this point, considering it's lighting air on fire. His body probably will get lit. So it's just the heat transduction through here that'll be him, as long as he's grounded.
White hot arc. But of course, I'm still conducting pretty much the full current there. Besides, it doesn't stop the arc from jumping directly to
Oh,
me.
yeah, you saw it
occasionally.
went into his hand.
So why doesn't it kill me? Most people will tell you it's because Tesla coils operate with gigantic voltages but very little current. It's funny, because when it comes to electricity, there's no bigger mythological beast than the Tesla coil. All aspects of Tesla coils are filled with misconceptions
Yeah.
in the public eye. Their operation, their history, their hazards, they're all littered with myths. Now, to be fair, they are mysterious devices.
They
And
look
although
crazy.
Their construction can be simple, the details of how they operate can get quite sticky.
If you haven't noticed it, it's burning at the base here, whatever is down there. It might be the metal itself actually lighting on fire. And to quote Michael Hamilton in the chat, the basic human response, poke it with a stick. And this is one of those few times where poke it with a stick is the safe option, unironically.
Sticky. Let's try and put some numbers behind this coil. Is the current really that low? What's the output voltage like?
Okay, actually, it's kind of cool. You could strip it and see the other side. You could see words from it. I can't read it, and maybe it's just burning pattern, but dear God, he's stripping the CD with the electricity.
Let's start with current. I've wound this current transformer with as many wire turns as there are ohms of resistance across it. That way, its voltage readout is identical to the current in amps of a wire going through the middle. Feeding the grounded wire of my secondary coil through this will give the current output of my Tesla coil.
Why do I feel this is going to
Well,
explode?
here we go. Alright, it triggered. Look at that. That's 3.2 amps of current. That's not low current at all. In fact, that's actually terrifying.
How much is
If
it?
you doubt my measurements, let's try that again with this ancient RF ammeter. This nearly 100-year-old meter is quite simple.
God
It's
damn,
just
is that
based on a
old?
thermocouple, which actually means it'll measure lower frequency and even DC current just fine too. Let's run it hooked up to the Tesla coil.
Is it just going to pop?
Alright, here we go. Well, there's an amp at least. Now I don't want to kill the meter, so I'm probably just going to stop it here. I ended up buying an even bigger meter, so let's give this one a go. Alright, here we go.
It's hovering at 1. Okay, it's above
Okay,
that.
I'm at full power now. It's reading only a little over an amp.
Okay.
Now I measured 3.2 amps earlier. Which is the correct measurement here? Actually, they're both right.
Oh.
This old meter reads the RMS current, and I looked at the peak current using my current transformer.
Oh.
The output is a sine wave at 50% duty cycle.
So it's looking at the difference between the average and the high peaks. I think I've seen something like that in frequencies used for computers as well.
That means that these measurements line up pretty much perfectly. Pretty cool, right?
Pretty
Alright,
terrifying.
So the current is actually quite high. But what about the voltage? Let's try to measure the output voltage with this vacuum capacitor voltage divider. Here we go. Huh.
It's capped
only at
out.
a couple percent of max power here, and it's already at 50,000 volts. Now I don't want to cook myself with X-rays, so I'm not going to push it.
What? Oh, sure, of course it produces X-rays. Ah. Not how is this guy alive? How is this guy not a drooling mess for having destroyed his own lobotomization process? And let's be honest, he's like, hey, I heard a myth about lobotomy, so I'm going to try it with a rock and a hammer this time. I'm glad he does tech stuff instead of that, because if he was into biology, oh dear God.
I can still estimate the voltage at max power if I make the admittedly rough approximation that the coil is purely inductive. This gives a result of about 100,000 volts, which is about what I expect, really.
He just likes throwing apples out the window.
The arc itself clamps the voltage pretty well, so that's why the voltage doesn't rise that much with considerably higher input power. Hold up. 100,000 volts at 3 amps? Does that make sense? That's like 300,000 watts. Here. That's 20 times more power than I'm giving it. Yes, it actually checks out, but the kicker is that that power is nearly all reactive. Tesla coils are resonators after all, sloshing charge back and forth and rigging up huge voltages at significant current.
Oh.
You still can extract more energy than you put into them, however.
Really?
Since the current and voltage are nearly completely out of phase.
Huh.
Even so, the real power output is still significant, and that arc there is still burning many thousands of real watts. So back to the original question, why doesn't it kill me when I touch it? The current is not low, and although that power is mostly reactive, I'm still conducting amps of current for a substantial amount of time when I do this. What's going on here? Many Tesla coil builders will tell you it's the skin effect at play here.
Skin effect?
At high frequencies, currents in a conductor are magnetically pushed to the edges, and this effect is a critical consideration when it comes to designing a Tesla coil. In fact, the currents in this thick cable are almost completely restricted to the outer 200 microns.
That is almost all copper wiring with a tiny covering of rubber around it. To give you an idea, copper is expensive, and most of the time, the covering is a significant proportion of it. I was expecting half of that to be covering, but no, it's mostly copper. That is a massive spool of copper. Goddamn. Also, Pylo, you mentioned, I know a little late, but on the Tesla coils and these ones with the ball on tops are different things. Oh, really? Similar but different. So it's actually a completely different style, and they produce different things altogether. And Michael Edmonton basically summed it up as, this is the element of because why not? That is a lot of StyroPyro's entire thing. In fact, I'd even say it goes a step further. It's not so much why not as what's stopping me. It's not a joke, is it? It's completely accurate. Oh. Ah, good. My niece is okay. Just had a new niece. I'm not going to show pictures because the mother asked no pictures just yet. But she was in the ICU after being born premature, and she's finally doing good. She was in a back and forth state. So it's actually really nice she's doing better. I'm glad about that. We just got the first text that she's doing good this morning, so touch and go for a week. But it's good to hear things are turning out well.
Microns because of this. So, does this mean that current just travels along my skin when I touch it? Nope. The skin effect is only significant at these frequencies when dealing with a good conductor like copper. Oh, it reacts to it, okay. When the material is resistive like flesh, that goes out the window. You can see this by cooking food in the microwave. The frequency there is over 10,000 times higher than my Tesla coil, yet it can still warm food quite a bit below the surface. So no, it's not the skin effect either. So what is it then? Well,
I was going to say, did he just cook a banana? But then I realized, yeah, that's a microwave. Of course it cooked the banana.
Well, it turns out, our nerves aren't quite so susceptible to high frequencies. And somewhere beyond 10 kilohertz, really? The polarity flips too fast to depolarize a nerve cell membrane.
Oh.
This means your nerves pretty much don't register it, and that's why it doesn't electrocute.
Oh!
Electroboom actually mapped out his own...
Electroboom, that's the guy's name, yeah. Also, electricity pain versus frequency. So the frequency of electricity does matter, and can we all acknowledge that he is, looks like using metal tape to hold electrodes to his tongue. I'm going to set this up as another person who falls in the category of how are you still alive?
Responds to different electrical frequencies, and published this chart with his results.
Feels like muscle twitching, feels like electric shock, feels like muscle cramp, and I'm assuming dead after that.
Of course, just because it doesn't kill instantly does not make it safe. Touching a Tesla coil output is never really safe. You can get severe internal burns when conducting big RF currents. I don't make a habit of touching arcs, and I keep my contacts brief.
He says while doing it multiple times in a single span. Oh, lovely.
I should point out that the power supply driving the coil is absolutely lethal, and touching that would kill you before you hit the floor. The funny thing is that the Tesla coil
don't
steps
fuck
up
with
the
power
voltage
supplies.
and current of the supply, while also making it less lethal due to the higher frequency. High frequency is also part of what keeps you from getting zapped by touching a plasma globe.
So the frequency is so high that our nerves resist it rather than conduct it. Oh, that's what he said, yeah. Huh. By that logic, are high-end computers actually safer? No, because they destroy your wallet either way, and that is the most terrible type you can get.
The voltage on the outside is actually quite significant,
Oh?
but a combination of the high frequency output, as well as the fact that it's a high impedance source, prevents you from getting zapped. Now, of course, high frequency won't protect you from something driven by a lethal high voltage source lacking isolation. My demon circuit is a classic example of this.
Demon
The
circuit?
flame arc there is running at over 13 megahertz, yet touching it would still kill you via the DC supply running it, since there's no isolation there. So what is it that makes exposure to some electrical sources lethal and others not? Well, it's a
He even wrote flame on there in the example diagram. It is so electrically charged, it creates its own flamethrower effect. Yeah, demon circuit seems accurate.
combination of volts and amps and frequency and duration, as well as some other stuff that determine whether it's dangerous or not. And, for the record, that's exactly what I said in my original 40-second video. To elaborate on the other stuff part, the source impedance, as well as where on your body you get shocked, are big players as well. Now, I don't intend this video to be an all-encompassing guide to electrical hazards, but I do hope it clears up some common misconceptions out there. I will say that high-voltage, low-impedance sources are ruthless when it comes to user error. There's a reason why the microwave oven transformer kills more science hobbyists than anything else. There's no room for a mistake. One final thing I'd like to address is all the comments I get from people that are surprised I'm still alive every
Yes, I agree with these people. It is actually amazing.
time I upload. Like, come on. I realize I work with a lot of extremely dangerous stuff, but I really do take considerable precautions, and that's why I'm still uploading. I will say that if it is electricity that ends up taking me out, it's probably not going to be this kind of stuff. It's going to be my favorite power supply of all, clouds.
Oh my, he actually was storm chasing? Of course he was storm chasing. I don't even... This is the guy, and I'm actually thinking this right now because I saw Matthew Dielectric comment about a demon core in here, who would probably try and recreate the demon core. So it's like, hey guys, today we're going to recreate the demon core, but I'm going to put this thing in front of me to see if this keeps me alive. Let's find out if I have 5 minutes to live or 20. Oh God.
I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, that is not far away. That is okay. It's right there. I mean, I think cars are slightly insulated with the rubber tires, but... yeah, no. Apparently, God is trying to get back at him for not dying all these times. Lol, Oklahoma? Or look, Oklahoma. Yeah, lol. I get that, Matthew. Yeah. Nope.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
One more thing. I'd like to shout out the YouTuber Tested to Destruction. He's a high-voltage YouTuber that embarked on using the monster GU39B Tetro to build a Tesla coil at the same time I did. We tested a bunch of different designs and shared our results with each other. He's got a lot of crazy high-voltage stuff on his channel, so you should...
I just want to go on record that anyone who StyroPyro feels is worth collabing with because they have interesting usage of anything, that is by far the most terrifying thing I can imagine. And one, good on them. Very intelligent, very smart. Also, I am by default absolutely terrified of these people and would gladly run away screaming for my life because I think at that point I would probably need to do so.
To check him out. I'd also like to thank all my patrons on Patreon.
You support him so he can do more terrifying things.
Move and unable to make new content. Finally, I'd like to thank all those professionals out there that encouraged me to make this video. Thank you, you silly garloids. Stay safe out there.
Either way, you guys know the deal. Do not do anything StyroPyro would find is a good idea because that sounds like a very terrifying idea. Thanks for watching, everyone. You guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. Hit it up, and I'll see you in the next one.